Hey ladies and gents, EA have just dropped their official gameplay reveal for FIFA 22, and basically I've just gone through and extracted each of the gameplay clips, behind the scenes captures from the show, and I'll just summarise the key points they made and some of my thoughts as well. So Hypermotion was brought up again, the 11 vs 11 mode capture and also the machine learning. You know, they said in the past 1 or 2 or 3 players were motion captured. Now EA with this new technology can capture 22 players on the pitch. They can create animations in real time, leading to a far more organic and fluid motion in a different set of scenarios in the game. And from what I've seen today and the short clip the other day, it really does make the players move far more naturally as units across the pitch. They then went on to talk about the next feature, which is full team authentic motion, adding over 4,000 new animations added to the game, which is 3 times more than they added last year for FIFA 21. Players will now adjust their stride as part of the machine learning to control and strike the ball. You know, adding more animations is always a good move in my opinion, and to add 3 times more than they did last year will certainly add even more fluidity and a far greater chance to do things with the ball that you simply wouldn't see or weren't able to do last year. They then went on to talk about the tactical AI and how players are making 6 times more decisions than in last year's game, making more intelligent runs offensively, whilst your defenders work far more impressively as a defensive unit, more now than ever before. Judging from what I've seen here, it looks great and far better than last year's game, which was a bit stale offensively unless you use the dynamic player runs and secondary player controls. You'll see here how the defensive line is far more dynamic and organic, and it was simply working as a unit to defend instead of being a disjointed mess, which was easy to exploit using 1-2s in FIFA 21. You'll also see there's a far better shape about the teams looking at these clips, and it looks to be a far more tactical battle than just trying to drag the nearest player out of position before a simple 1-2, which could lead to a chance on goal. They went on to mention about how the back 4 defend zonally unless you set up man markers, and they do a far better job now closing out the space against attackers, and they mentioned that during this clip. They also went in to talk about the attack and defense tactics, where you can set up your team in a completely different formation for when you're defending to another formation for when you're attacking. And they really did think that this is going to have a huge impact on the pro scene and those wanting to rise to the top. The next feature was all about the Kinetic Air Battles and how it improves the visuals of 2 players challenging for a header, yet also retaining that responsiveness. The collision between players now is far more realistic, and as they come together, you're really going to feel that physical contact now. And they just said it's going to be pretty much a game changer for when balls are in the air and 2 players are challenging for that ball. This next feature, I've got to admit, I wasn't too hyped about until they spoke about it here, which is composed ball control. This is where they're adding new multi-touch animations that allow your player to control the ball with multiple touches. So he can take the ball down by his chest, then onto his knee, and then onto his foot. And you can change direction at any point during that first touch. You aren't locked into a set of animations. Previously, they said that they aimed for everything to be short animations. This was to keep the game as responsive as possible. But now, with the Hypermotion technology, you can manipulate the ball at any point. So the game feels, the game still feels responsive, but you get that visual quality as well. So if you control the ball with your chest and you see the defender approaching from the right, you can turn to the left. And they added that there's 400 new animations simply for controlling the ball. Player Humanization was the next feature they spoke about and mentioned how players make gestures to players around them, maybe trying to encourage a player to move forward, call for the ball, or players pointing where they want the ball to be played in behind a defence, or even show visible signs of frustration when they aren't past the ball when they're in a good position. They've also added a specific animation for Haaland, as he has such a unique running style with his hunch as he runs onto the ball. They said these gestures are most noticeable during set pieces such as corners, free kicks and goal kicks. The next 2 features were definitely areas that have lacked improvement over the last 5 years or so. The first is a Goalkeeper Rewrite, where they've added a whole bunch of new animations and said that goalkeepers are now more reliable and more realistic than ever before in how they make saves, and they come out to close down the angles in 1v1 situations. And this is all thanks to the Hypermotion capture. One of the highlights is where you see a goalkeeper now tracks the ball with his head as the ball passes his hands. The second feature is definitely one I've been harking on about for quite some time, which is the ball physics. They're now introducing true ball physics, which means they're changing how the ball moves and adding improved realism to how the ball swerves and spins in the air, once again thanks to the Hypermotion technology. And just looking at these clips they showed here, you can see the impact it's going to have. You know, previously in FIFA 21 and before, it just felt like a beach ball, if you ask me, especially the cross-field passes, and that's definitely been rectified here. The final in-game feature is the explosive sprint. So pressing trigger at the right time will give you a speed boost, and this applies to both the defender and the attacker, but there is a cooldown to add balance, and it just prevents players spamming this repeatedly. And basically they just added at the very end that they have been listening to feedback and taking it on from pro players, content creators, game changers, casuals, and the general FIFA community when they took these changes, when they thought about making these changes. EA have always talked a good game, but the second it's in your hands, it all feels rather familiar. And in my opinion, rather boring, as each match plays out much the same, with an over-reliance on pace. But this Hypermotion technology is definitely not to be ignored, and I'm actually excited to get my hands on it. Well, it's now over to Konami now to try and pull something out of the hat, and I'll have a full breakdown and analysis of that on my channel too. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to overhead kick that like button and volley the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Anyway, that's all from me, ladies and gents. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'll look forward to seeing you then. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.